KYC process in 2021 and a particular use case on how we have digitized, optimized, and automated a workflow for one of our customers. So firstly, ZignSec was founded in 2015 out of Sweden, where its headquarters has remained. Since 2015, we have expanded to Czech Republic and US, and recently also Singapore. With the success we have had in Europe, we listed a company on Nasdaq First North in 2019. Since then, we have also acquired companies such as an award-winning Singapore company called Basis ID, which complements our local services here. My responsibility is to head ZignSec's Asian expansion. Now, let's get into a bit more important part of today and why you're all here, I hope. The first part that I wanted to share today is very important, which is how do I reduce fraud, which both regulated and non-regulated companies should think about, as it doesn't only relate to comply with regulations, but also generally can affect your bottom line. So how to implement an effective KYC process in 2021. To get into a little bit more detail, we first can go through what is KYC, or Know Your Customer. It is a guideline that requires companies to make an effort to verify the identity, suitability, and risk involved with maintaining a business relationship. Now, why is that important in relation to specifically Singapore or MAS regulations? It is really to reduce risk of identity theft. It could be money laundering, financial fraud, and the financing of criminal organizations. Now, KYC helps to manage risks, and it helps to understand the customer behavior. For regulated businesses specifically, this is important due to demands from the regulators, of course. If you don't follow it, regulators may give you a hefty fine. And during 2020, financial institutions were actually fined a total of over $10 billion US. So it's important to follow. Now, how does one create an effective KYC process in order to comply with regulations? We have created a 6-step checklist, which includes also questions you should ask yourself during each step, which is based on our experience that will improve the effectiveness of the KYC process. So firstly, understand why you need a KYC process. It is really essential to start with a why. You can, of course, get just straight into it, integrate identity verification software from the first Google result, spend a lot of money and effort to get everything right. But based on our experience, you will eventually realize that although the KYC software is working fine, you don't need many of the features. And on the opposite side, it lacks many of the necessities. So why are you looking into building a identity verification software or integrating a KYC service provider solution? Is it because you have regulations that you have to follow, or maybe that you are looking to lower fraud on your platform? It could also be that you like to have a seamless onboarding process, could be monitoring financial crimes, could be conduct risk surveillance, or to only automate your compliance flow. So to really better understand your goals, we would suggest you to consider answering the following questions. Who are your clients? Are you working with businesses or is it natural persons? From which countries do they come? Which regulations concern entities from those countries? Would you need a PAP or politically exposed person and adverse media screening, normally used in AML, CFT checks? And do you need an enhanced due diligence process? So that's first. Now, the second checklist is structuring of your KYC process. So after you have determined your goals for implementing a KYC software solution into your platform, it is time to decide on the features and the flow of your KYC process. And structuring your KYC process will really lead to understand the onboarding of your users, data management, and lastly, it will help you to look for reporting purposes. And with that, there are a couple of questions that we would like you to consider during this process. One is, of course, do your users go through the identity verification process before being able to access your service, or do you have some limited functionality before the KYC? Is KYC completed all at once, or does it come in steps to unlock different platform features? Which data should your user provide? Do you want to have a compliance officer to check user data, or you want this process to be either completely automated or semi-automated? Does users get a second chance if they don't pass the verification? How does your ongoing monitoring look like? And do you want to have reporting to the authorities to be automatic or manual? Now, the third part is connecting a KYC service provider. So after you have determined your goals for implementing a KYC software solution into the platform, then of course the next step would be as soon as you're set with the structure of your KYC process, you can either build your KYC software solution, or you can connect to a KYC and AML service provider. Now, as creating your own identity verification software is extremely expensive, it's time consuming, and it's really vulnerable to consistent legislation changes. We will focus on a third-party solution here today. Now, when choosing a KYC service provider, make sure to check several vendors to evaluate the following. Does the KYC software solution have the features you identified in your second step? Does it only provide ID verification software, also advanced features, such as ongoing monitoring and enhanced due diligence? Can the KYC software provider make the compliance automatic, or is there a lot of manual work? Now, does the vendor have a data management platform? How user-friendly is it? Perhaps you don't need a data management platform. And then what is the average verification time with this? Now, after researching these questions, it is also essential to check for reviews, case studies, ask for a demo. Most of the KYC software providers would be very happy to show you their identity verification software or their data management platform, as well as other cool features they may have. And additionally, many of the KYC service providers also offers a sandbox or a free trial version to play around with their identity service platform. So if you have a chance to get the trial, make sure to use it, because using a software yourself, of course, is worth more than 1 million reviews. Next step, design a customer journey and onboarding process. So once you have selected a KYC service provider, it's really time to get into the gist of it and create an onboarding process. So KYC vendors such as us at ZignSec usually offer several ways of integrating the KYC software solution into your customer onboarding flow. So those could be a widget integration, and widget integration has certain benefits, such as identity verification software only takes a couple of minutes to integrate, and often normally a user-friendly interface. So completing onboarding with the widget is easy and intuitive. Normally the customer satisfaction is quite high, and developers do not need to worry about creating the front end from scratch. The widget also allows for a lot of flexibility and can be set up to serve your needs in the best possible ways. ZignSec also provides a white label solution for a widget integration. The second most common way is through an API integration, which can also be relatively quickly done, and is normally done through a get and post requests for those who are technically inclined. API also allows you to have ultimate flexibility, as your developers are the ones who are designing your onboarding from scratch. API is an excellent option also for those who have to have full control of the onboarding while having the peace of mind of completing the compliance or the adherence with the compliance. Now, designing a smooth KYC flow is crucial because a seamless onboarding can raise the conversion, while an unintuitive one can cost your company significant financial resources. So to design a user-friendly onboarding, we recommend to start with the customer in mind and considering the following questions. How long does the onboarding take? Can not so tech-savvy users understand it well? Is the process gamified or incentivized in any other way for the user? Or are the instructions clear? Now, next step, create an enhanced due diligence flow. So for some of your high-risk customers, you might need to set up an enhanced due diligence flow. And this is a process that provides a more rigorous inspection of customers and their risk analysis. So EDD is implemented when KYC and customer due diligence measures are not enough. Now, EDD is required for customers, for example, who has a higher risk of performing a money laundering crime. And there are some factors that is in consideration for high-risk customers, and those are either if one of your customers are a match against a politically exposed person, could be an adverse media database, or the person may be sanctioned or on a blacklist. There could be specific locations that the customer comes from that is of high risk. They could be involved in a cash-intensive business or be an employee of a cash-intensive business. They might be using suspicious payment types. And lastly, there might be an unexpected change in the pattern of the customer's activity, which requires an enhanced due diligence. Now, ZignSec have several triggers and red flags that automatically enables an enhanced due diligence process if that is required. And during the EDD process, the customer is required to provide additional documents, such as proof of address, could be bank statements, and it could also be to verify the source of income. Now, businesses are required, so that's for the individual. For businesses, they may be required to provide documents such as article of incorporation, management board structure, and registration documents. And EDD also includes analysis of the ultimate beneficial owner of a company if the architecture of a company is too complex. It could be transaction monitoring, as well as the ongoing monitoring for the data relevance. Now, lastly, the sixth step, create the reporting system. So after you have done the onboarding process, set up and all of its additional features, such as the EDD, make sure that you plan for a reporting system. So when you assess a customer's risk and collect the necessary data about him or her, there are a few questions to consider. One, of course, is storage. Now, ZignSec organizes customers' data in a structured, user-friendly API or webhook for your CRM integration, which means it can be integrated to any CRM. Alternatively, we also have a data management platform where customer details are held following the GDPR on a cloud or on-premise solution. Secondly, is organized and accessible or accessibility to the data, while it should still be, of course, from a Singapore aspect, PDPA compliant, but from a more global perspective is the GDPR compliance. So while choosing a KYC provider, make sure that the customer's profiles are neatly organized, easy accessible. Alternatively, we also have a data, or for example, MAS support this heavily by providing addendums to SLAs or server level agreement provided by KYC service providers to make sure that you are covered by third-party providers. Now, thirdly is you want to have an automatic or a manual process. If you want to have an automatic reporting system that will send reports to authorities without you compiling them manually. So those are the three different aspects you should think about or question within your organization to create a reporting system. Now, reporting, of course, is essential part of KYC process. So it's really vital to allocate enough resources to make it smooth and accurate. So in conclusion, as financial services increase the popularity, criminals always find new ways to laundering money. And in response to that, monetary authorities releases new regulations. For example, in 2021, is even more important than ever to have an effective KYC process to really stay compliant and mitigate the risk of fraud. Although each organization is different, this checklist will help you get on the right path to reach to creating a proper KYC process, which is based on your particular risk factors. However, if you have any questions and would like to use the help of experienced compliance officers, reach out to us and we will be happy to assist you free of charge. Now, going to the next or second half of the webinar. Firstly, digitalization of businesses helps to improve the efficiency of the processes, consistency and quality. And it can integrate conventional records of files into a digitalized form, which eliminates redundancies, shortening a communication chains, and also improve and facilitate a better informational change. So how to really digitize, optimize, and automate your workflows. Today, I was thinking that I was going to share one of our use cases on how digitalization can achieve great results. So firstly, some background about this use case. This particular customer is based in Philippines. It's operating in the capital market sector, more specifically as a stockbroker. Now in Philippines, companies that are operating in the capital market sector is regulated by the Security Exchange Commission and not the central bank. So, and interestingly enough, the two regulatory bodies in Philippines has different regulatory frameworks, which is different from Singapore, who only has one regulator, which is MAS. Now, this customer specifically had business KPIs that could not be met or very challenging to meet, which COVID-19, of course, magnified. Now, they had a customer onboarding process that almost 100% was reliant on meeting their end customer face-to-face. So how did we start? Firstly, within the organizations, there was a couple of main processes that we have identified, which was most important in the process to digitalize. And they were namely the digitization of forms, of course, digitalization of business processes, risk profiling, and user access rights. So their business process for onboarding customers required manpower and physical forms that needed to be filled in, stored, and manually digitized, which led to an onboarding process that took up to a week for acquiring one customer. And this, of course, is not financially viable. And it also provides a bad experience to end customers. Now, we analyzed their complete internal standard operating procedures, work processes, and with the goal to really automate as much as possible. Now, our solution led to bringing down the onboarding or acquisition time from a week to minutes. Which of course internally boosted the KPI for customer acquisition, but it also decreased churn during onboarding. Now this is how we did it, and I'll go through each step of the process. So firstly, there was a couple of things that were very important to track in the beginning of the customer journey that really affected the legal side, the business tracking, as well as sales staff's KPIs. So firstly, we started to identify what kind of legal requirements a customer would need to consent and approve. Secondly, we identified that there were 4 different account types that they wanted to implement, such as individual, corporate, student, and in-trust account. Last year, we also realized that we could digitalize and automate the KPIs for the sales staff with tracking each individual end customer and whom they have been introduced by. So this simplified the internal processes with both the legal and finance. Now, the next step was to digitize or digitalize the existing physical step of having a customer to be present at their office for identity verification. So how did we do that? We utilized ZignSec's online ID scan solution. Now, this solution allowed their customers in real time to scan their passport, driver license, or ID cards, as well as other documents for proof of identity, date of birth, and gender, and this normally takes up to 15 seconds. The solution also helps the stockbroker with market expansion and foreign investor due to its coverage of around 200 countries, and it supports almost 9,000 different kind of document types. Actually, in Philippines alone, we support about 84 document types. Now, the consumer will go through a process during the identity verification solution that includes, but is not limited to, one document upload step. The second one is that we are doing a biometric check in form of a face matching or a liveness scan. In this case study, we decided on a selfie, as that is also supported by the regulations in Philippines. And thirdly, we do a fraud check to verify that the individual behind the screen is the same person as the document. And we also do an authenticity verification of the document itself and many more checks. Next, on the third step for the end customer, we digitized and digitalized the stockbroker's existing forms to an online environment that is hosted on the cloud by us, which can be changed in a matter of minutes due to our flexible online work process engine. Now, the investor profile step includes all the necessary information about the individual or the organization in order to determine a risk score based upon a risk-based approach, such as, but is not limited to, name, gender, date of birth, country of birth, nationality, which was all extracted from the uploaded document during the identity verification step using our OCR technology, and pre-fill these forms with that information. Further information that we collected was contact information, civil status, registered address or address, occupation and employee details, wealth origination, investment objectives, could be financial status, bank account information, beneficiaries, and a range of disclosures. Now, next part, as part of the due diligence for compliance to the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, or FATA, each customer also had to answer a range of questions, which would request further actions, such as filling in additional documents. I believe this is a quite standard across the world within the field to be able to, or the need to fill in a FATCA question. And then next step, we then used all the entered information by the end customer through the digital onboarding process and pre-filled the stockbroker's own branded agreement, albeit in a digital PDF format with such data, which the end customer signed digitally. Now, from the digital signature point of view, we are using an advanced electronic signing technique, which is uniquely linked to the signatory. So every client or prospective client will internally be assigned a digital signing certificate. Now, this is linked to the user's email address as well as the phone number. And in order to then sign a document using this signature, the signer will receive an email with a unique code, which is embedded in the link. and a unique code via SMS to his or her phone number. Now, those codes ensure that the document may only be signed by the intended recipient by ensuring that the signer has access to his or her mobile phone as well as email account. Now, once the document is signed, any changes to the document will invalidate the signature. This is ensured through the cryptographic method by which the document is signed, where it means a hash is generated at signing time and invalidates if any changes are made to the document afterwards. Now, lastly, using digitalization, automation, we were now able to collect legal consents, business process tracking, sales staff tracking, identity verification, customer information, FATA questionnaire, and lastly, a signed agreement. And at the same time, we automated a process for the AML and CFT checks, which is being run in the background while the customer is filling in the information. And with the AML and CFT checks, we are connected to globally the biggest and most extensive databases there is. Some of those lists are DFAT, Interpol, OFAC, HMT, UN, C6, government sanction lists, anti-terrorist lists, CIA, and other bespoke and proprietary lists. Now, using a risk-based approach, we built a risk profile engine using all the information that the end customer has filled in, but also through the automation using multiple database sources, so that each end customer is given a risk score of either low, medium, or high. Now, with the customer being automatically flagged as a high risk, the stockbroker could then initiate their EDD or enhanced due diligence processes. So from a compliance point of view and regulation, the process now encompasses a complete step-by-step process, which includes the KYC, EDD, and AML CFT side. Now, all information provided can be reviewed by a specific user access right in the stockbroker's organization to finally approve an account opening. Now, lastly, all available data points collected, including the document itself, was sent to the stockbroker's CRM through an API integration for storage and reporting to the authorities. So, to summarize this end use case that the customer started off, they had a few questions in the beginning, of course, which was how do we implement the paperless account opening process? How do we reduce account opening time from days to hours or even minutes? How can our new or old customers access us or them easier during COVID? And lastly, how do they remain competitive in Philippines and even grow their user base? So with ZignSec solution and our collaborative effort, we built really a solution that answers all those questions, as well as solidifying a foundation for growth and expansion. Thank you very much for listening, and please contact me to know more, and I can demonstrate our solution for you. Thank you very much.